Hey everybody, welcome back to Men Need to Be Heard. It's Dan, and today we're back to do the show where we cover the topics that no one else wants to talk about. And today I am super excited to be welcoming back a prior guest, one who joined me about 2 years or so ago. To share his story about at that time getting evicted from his home by his ex, and she had filed an ex parte order of protection, and he made a video where the popo showed up that ended up going viral. And just to give you a quick glimpse at it, here's a short clip from the video.
I'm being evicted from my house now.
Immediately, but what we allow you to do is get an overnight bag. All right, so we'll go inside so you can get some of your things.
I have to leave with you?
No, you can drive away.
No. What I'm asking you is, I have to leave right now.
Correct. Yep. So you can go inside, gather up some of your things. We allow you that courtesy. And do you have your car here?
I do.
And then on your own accord, you can leave here, okay?
Now, I'm going to really encourage you to go watch that full video, and just to make it easy for you, I'm going to put a link down in the description. But without any further ado, let's welcome in the man who was the unwitting star of that video, who's going to be giving us an update on what's happened since then, as well as talk about the absolutely amazing and incredible work he's been putting in over the past couple of years to address the issue of false allegations and some other things and bring about change. So please join me in welcoming the man, the myth, and a member of the Brotherhood of Baldness, my good friend Ulysses Butch Slaughter. Welcome, Ulysses, to the show, my friend.
Man, it is so good to be back, Dan. As I'm sitting here, I'm remembering the first time you and I talked. And it has been almost 2 years now.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
I know. And the things that have transpired in those 2 years, I could have never predicted. And I think part of the joy of this ride, as difficult as it has been, the joy of this ride has been coming across like men with men like you. I mean, you don't know who's out there in the wilderness until you're out there in the wilderness, man. And it has been a pleasure to watch your work continue to grow and the way that you've impacted people, and to feel like I'm a part of something. So thank you so much for having me again.
Well, thank you for joining me. And yeah, we are a true brotherhood. I mean, and I don't say that lightly. There's quite a few of us out there, not as many as we need. Let's be clear on that. But I also think it's fair to say it's growing rapidly. And a lot of that is due to the work that you've been doing. And I want to really dive into some of that. But before we jump in, let's kind of just, because some of the audience may not be familiar with you. So before we jump into what you've been doing lately and what's transpired, why don't we take a couple of minutes? You can tell the audience a little bit about yourself and maybe even add a little context from that video clip that we showed.
Well, my name is Ulysses Butch Slaughter. I live just outside the Philadelphia area. And that clip that was shown earlier is a clip from my previous home in Media, Pennsylvania. And August the 4th, 2021, we're coming up on the 4th anniversary of when that happened. Sometimes people see that still today, which is what I love about the internet. People see it today and they're wishing me well, telling me to lawyer up, but the clip is 4 years old, and how fast the time has gone. So I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I'm a father of 6. I'm a grandfather of 6. And I'm a filmmaker and I'm a writer. And so a lot of what people see in that clip, my behavior, I hope represents my military background, because it was very important for me to be calm, collected as I was going through that. But it also represented my my instincts as a filmmaker and journalist. So when the state police pulled up on me on August the 4th, 2021, I was quick to record. I was quick to capture. And I had no idea, Dan, that I would be sitting here with you and that I would be talking with people all around the world as a result of instinctively clicking that record button on my phone camera and beginning to record 21 minutes worth of an eviction.
Yeah, and I mean, I can kind of relate to it too. I remember when my first wife left me, And that particular day is when I started my journey doing this. And it, like you, it's vivid in my day. And, I've shared it with people before, and it's hard for me. It's 30 years.
Wow.
And when you look at your video, and like I said, I'm going to put a link down below. And I also encourage people to go watch the first time you're on the podcast. And I'll put a link to that as well, because that gives much more detail than we're going to cover here. We just wanted to give you a flavor for it now. But it's an amazing story. And the takeaway really from it, and you even just said so, is that story's still moving forward, right? The internet is forever. That video, you'll be hearing 10, 20 years from now, people out that see that video, I'm sure.
Right.
But it's amazing how much it resonates, right? I remember when I first saw it 2 odd years ago or whatever it was, how much it affected me, right? And which is why I had you on the first time. But I also hear from guys. I still have people send it to me. You need to talk to this guy. I already did. It's on here. Go check out the podcast, right? It's still affecting people, and that's giving you the impetus to move forward, which is really why I wanted to have you back on, because you're doing so much work and amazing work and making a huge difference. And it all started with a split-second decision, basically, to pull out your phone. And, if you watch the video, you're very polite and respectful of the police. I think it's fair to say they're, for the most part, doing the same with you. They're doing their job,
They were.
and all of that. But it gave a glimpse into a world people don't know about. Never really understood. And it resonated. That thing went viral. And it's amazing.
Man. That thing's been seen more than 20 million times across different platforms.
Mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is mind-blowing because so many other people like you, other content creators picked it up, other podcasters picked it up, and they amplified that story. And like I said, instinctively, I knew that I needed to record as soon as I saw them coming up the driveway. But I had no idea, Dan, that till this day, I continue, if I look at my TikTok account, I look at my YouTube account, I look at my Instagram account, there's still people that are reaching out to me saying that happened to me. Can you help me? And it makes my individual situation so much smaller when I think about the contribution that I've been able to make. I am so glad that I've come into a community where I can actually help other men navigate this situation, because it's tough, man. I always tell people on this side of this process, I am nothing like the man that I was when you see me in that video. Mm-hmm. I have learned so much about false allegations of abuse. I've learned so much about what it means to cry a little bit and work your behind off to make sure that you can recover. I've learned what it means to have a network of men around me before something like that happens, so that when something like that happens, I'm not scrapping and clawing, trying to figure out what to do. I've learned so much, and I want to pay it forward, man. I want to be able to help other men. If to the extent that they can avoid it, I want to help them avoid it. But if it cannot be avoided, and this is a very important point, because I don't care what anybody says, you don't always see it coming. You don't see it coming. But if I can help people recover, I'm glad that I've had the experience that I've had, so I can help men recover from this stuff.
Well, you touched on a very key point there. And I think it's almost not always the case, but the majority of the time, you don't see it coming, right?
Right.
For those that don't know, it's very simple for technically anyone, but it's primarily women, to go to the court. It's called ex parte. You don't even know it's happening. She goes into the court, or her lawyer does, or both. They say, something along the phrase, the 5 magic words, as I call them, I am afraid of him. She gets a TRO or a PPO or whatever terminology that state or jurisdiction's using. And the sheriff shows up, or the state police, and you're tossed out the door, and you have no idea what even happened. And that's what happened to you. So let's kind of take from there. So again, I encourage people to go watch the first podcast, and you'll get the full breakdown on it. But where has it gone from there? You're 2 years past that, or no, 4 years past it, but 2 years past since we talked. What's happening with the case?
So thing that I waited to do, that video, I didn't share that video until after my divorce was finalized. That happened August the 4th, 2021. I didn't release that video until late July 2023 because for about 2 years, Dan, I still had no idea what was going on. And I want to clarify when I say that, like, I don't know the divorce world like that. I don't know false allegations like that. I had to get real clear about what was going on before I decided to release that video because you and I talked about this before. They call it the silver bullet. Some people call it the magic bullet. I didn't know that it was a thing. And so I did a lot of studying. I did a lot of networking, again, which is how I came in contact with you. And after a period of some real heartache, some real heartbreak, some real emotional challenges, I started to rebuild myself. I realized that, hey, I gotta do something to recover. And I didn't realize that I had all kinds of options for filing like private criminal complaints. Like I could literally go and say, hey, this is perjury. I can prove to you that this is perjury. I had all kinds of people reaching out to me and say, you should file a lawsuit. I filed a lawsuit back in, it was May 13th, 2022, I filed a lawsuit. So my recovery and my healing was grounded in my fighting back. And so I am still, as we sit here today is the 31st of July, I'm still right there on the edge of the resolution of a settlement in this matter because I filed a lawsuit. And a lot of people would say, and I've heard a lot of people say this to men, you just need to move on. Just forget about it and move on. And I know it's an individual choice, but moving on to me means recovering and healing with as much justice as possible. It does not mean just walking away and forgetting it. It means asking yourself, what is my character? What am I made of? What do I need to do that's right for me? If I've been wronged, how do I right this situation as much as possible? So the divorce was finalized October the 12th, 2023, but then the lawsuit kicked in. And then I had to start making sure I had all kinds of documents. I had to make sure that I understood the narrative. I needed to make sure that, pardon me, I needed to make sure that I had my ducks in a row, as they say. And when I started lining up all of the paperwork and I saw what the story was, I said, yeah, I got to fight back. And I'm not just fighting back for me. I'm fighting back for my children. And I want to fight back as a model of what is possible above and beyond having a false allegation thrown at you and just walking away.
And that's the key point of all this, right? Is I understand the guys that say, I just want to walk away. I just want it behind me. I respect that if that's where they're at. But we need more people to do what you're doing because, it's why I do what I do. I didn't file lawsuits, but I've been advocating this way for 30 years now, right? Trying to raise awareness of it. It really, you may not have to do a lawsuit. You may not have to do what I do, but you need to do something. And you really touched on the key point of that whole thing, which is that's how you heal. And I'd argue in many ways, you can't heal if you don't do something as a man, right? If you just take it sitting down or lying down or whatever phrase you want to use and just say, I'm just gonna bury it and move on. You may think you're doing that, but it almost inevitably comes back to haunt you later on. And that's why you see guys get in. So many times I've seen this. I'm going to bury it. They bury it, and then they jump into another bad relationship because they never healed. So that's why I want people to really understand that doing what you do or doing something similar to what I do, whatever, doing something can absolutely change your life. And oh, by the way, as a side benefit, you might be changing somebody else's. And that's what you've been doing. I mean, it's amazing the work that you've done. Horrible that you had to go through what you did to get to
Right,
that point. But,
right.
when you look at where you were at with that case 2 years ago, and now it's coming to a resolution soon, how does it affect you emotionally in the sense that, I mean, for 4 years now, you've been dealing with this, and there's going to be some sort of closure to it, right?
Right.
How is it making you feel with that right now?
I think about those long days, those long nights where I would ruminate, Dan. I mean, I would literally just kind of walk around in disbelief and keep asking myself, when is this going to be over? When is this going to be over? I think about the question of, sometimes it's like, why me? Why did this happen to me? How did I let this happen? Going through a lot of that stuff, feeling bad for what I sometimes would say to myself, I allowed it to happen. And then also feeling very isolated because thankfully there really are not a lot of people that are falsely accused. It's a lot of them. But in my circle of friends, I'm the only person that I know that's ever gone through something like this. So it makes it a very lonely existence, which is why, again, getting to know people like you and other people, I could name a lot of people that you and I know that I've had an opportunity to meet and talk with, and they're my new tribe. If it wasn't for the new tribe, my emotional bearing would be very weak. But I've been able to rebuild myself by responding and saying, "Oh no, you're just not going to do that to me," and have me walk away with my tail tucked between my legs. That's not how this is going down. And so those times when I would ruminate, I decided, "Oh no, you need to do something. Stop, kind of walking in circles, digging a deeper ditch the more you walk. It's time for you to get out of that vicious cycle of rumination and start to contribute to something." So showing up to meetings with a good friend of mine, Rael Pinta. I think you've interviewed
She was just
Rael
on the
before.
show a couple weeks or a couple months ago, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, like Rael and I put together a whole series of online false allegations workshops that we do. And we did our first set of 5, and we're approaching Falsely Accused Day, which was started by Lynn Crabtree back on September the 9th, 2020. I've just immersed myself into helping people and learning more. Because Dan, I would not want to see somebody go through this, man. I would not, if I was looking at me 2 years ago, if this is me today, looking at me 2 years ago, I'd love to be able to help pick that brother up and say, "Hey, come on, man. We can do this. We can do this." But in order to become who I am in this situation, I had to go through that. But I don't know that everybody has to go through such a difficult, lonely time. And I want to do what I can to help the men that I've met move to a place of strength when they are appropriately ready. I don't want to rush anybody, but I want to make sure that the men that I come in contact with feel hopeful. But they feel hopeful not because of what I'm saying, but because of what they see me doing. So I continue to put together workshops. I continue to do films. I continue to develop resources. That's the kind of stuff that has helped me regain my emotional stability.
Yeah, I mean, I equate it a lot to the work that I did as an advocate for domestic violence and running a domestic violence male survivors group. It's very similar, right? We tried to create an environment in there very similar to what you're talking about, where the guys could come in and just share their story or just sit there, right? Because it's an isolated, lonely existence for most, not all, but the majority. And as you were kind of so eloquently saying, you're sitting there night after night, it just consumes you, right? you never get it out of your mind fully. And I always advocate you need to find ways to do that. But one of the
Yeah.
best ways to do that is to do what you did, right? Start talking to guys.
Right.
Find out you're not alone. There are a lot out there, right? Now we're talking
Yes.
specifically about silver bullet issues or, false allegations of rape or sexual assault. Those are the ones we're focusing on. But there are
Right.
other ones out there that aren't counted. Like in
Yes.
you get accused of doing harassment in the corporate world. That doesn't show up in the statistics.
Right.
But when you look at the silver bullet, and I've interviewed I don't know how many divorce attorneys now on this podcast, and I think the lowest number they've given me is 50% of the cases have the silver bullet, and one or two said it was 80 or 90% of the cases.
Wow.
That's how prevalent it is now, and
Yeah.
you providing an outlet for these guys, basically, to sum it up, a beacon of hope, because
Right.
you feel hopeless when it happens.
Yes, you do.
Giving that beacon of hope. I hate to say it this way, but you're literally saving lives, because 40% of the men who kill themselves is directly related to divorce, and the
Yeah.
majority of them is silver bullet type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you said all those lonely nights, again, staring up at the ceiling or just looking into the dark, wondering when is this going to be over. It's one thing for us to talk about it, but when I talk to men and they are living through it and I can relate to what they're talking about, I feel their pain. And it's the thing that makes me so passionate about the things that I'm doing around false allegations, because I really feel that pain. And I know people have to go through it to some extent alone. We can only do so much for people. There's a time where they have to empower themselves and believe in themselves again, and begin to say, I'm going to fight. But if I'm standing there with them and they're watching me do certain things, it helps them to kind of see what the possibility is. And man, I think about my sons, Dan. I think about other relatives, and I think again, man, I just would not want to see them go through this. And when I started to feel after a while that this was coming to an end, I became stronger. I told a friend of mine the other day, I said, I don't know if it's better or worse to see the finish line.
It's funny. I get what you're saying. I totally get it.
You think you see the finish line, it's like, you think it's coming closer, and it's like a mirage, man. It's like, wait a minute. I thought I was at the finish line. Is the finish line moving? Is it like the closer I get to it, the further away it gets? But I can laugh now, because I think part of laughing, man, is just releasing so much truly toxic energy through laughter has been crucial for me. And I want other people to feel that. I want them to feel the exhale of getting that false allegation off of them. But I think there's a part of it, Dan, that I won't say it never goes away, because I think we live in degrees of it, so to speak. Like when it's really impacting you, it's like having a cold, and you feel the cold beginning to break, or the flu, and it begins to break. There are those periods when we have a flu or a cold and it's like really bad. And then as you start to move out of it, as you start to move out of the false allegation, you can feel it lifting a little bit. It's not quite gone, but you can feel it lifting a little bit. But you never forget that you had the flu. You never forget that you had the cold. You never forget that you were falsely accused. And what drives me is wanting to help people who are facing this, and wanting to prevent it for people who have not faced it.
Yeah, that's a terrific analogy you used, right, with the illness, and it's, again, it for those that have never lived through it, it's tough to understand. But maybe you've been through domestic violence, you've been a victim of it. It's
Yes.
very similar, right?
Right.
I've been out of that for 30 years. I've gotten past it. It's behind me, but it's never fully left me, right? It's
Yeah.
always there, and every once in a while it'll creep in, and it doesn't consume me or anything like that, but
Right.
and it'll come out of nowhere. I don't think it ever, either case, ever fully leaves you.
Right.
But then the other side of it is, and you've touched on this, I think it gives you a strength that maybe others that haven't been through it don't have, right?
Right.
It gives you a resilience, and it's horrible that we have to go through it to have it, but
Right.
when you deal with it and when you can come out the other side and are victorious, although I don't think there's any winners or losers in the long run, but I think I know in my case, again, I've never faced a false allegation, but I dealt with domestic violence and all that. I think when you come out on the other side and you have that resilience, you have that strength, it enables you, when you have other things come up in your life, you're like, oh, compared to what I went through, this is nothing.
That's right.
And I've had that many times. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah, I have, man, and I'm glad you brought that up. That it's like going to the gym. Once you've been able to press a certain amount of weight, when you get that breakthrough, when you can break that threshold, you can break other thresholds. You can keep leveling up. And when you encounter certain challenges after a false allegation, these things seem minor compared to what you've been through, compared to the court dates and the money loss, the psychological toil that it takes. There's one thing that I want to talk about, because I think men need to get this one as quickly as possible. And it's around the fact that when we're talking about divorce, or when we're talking about a significant other, maybe it's dealing with child custody or something like that, that I've met so many men that take a long time to come to the conclusion that she did that to me. I can't believe she did that to me. And the person that you're looking at is not the person that you once saw, but that person's face is still the same. And I know guys that are existing in a quagmire. They're trying to come to terms with the fact that this is the same person that I trusted. It's the same face, it's the same body, it's the same name, but the behavior has changed. And I know guys that get stuck there in this disbelief. And I just had to say to a guy yesterday, I said, it's time for some self-preservation right now. I want you to really think in terms of taking your mind away from that person. I need you to look away. It's kind of like Medusa. Look away. Don't turn back. You're going to get frozen. I need you to look away. Now, start to look that way and start thinking about the road that you're going to have to walk down. Just don't turn around and look back, because you're going to be frozen again. And guys have a hard time with that. And I've just found, man, that men love really hard. Many of the men that I've met in this situation, they love hard. They mean it when they say they love. They're not ready to give up. And sometimes I tell them, you're going to have to let that go. You're going to have to find a way to let that go, because the more you hang on to it, the worse it's going to get, because you are now involved in a process that is not only impersonal, but can be deadly if you don't stop turning around and looking at her the way you used to look at her.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, because I do coaching for guys going through divorce, and I was working with a gentleman this past Monday, and it's exactly what you talked about, right? And he's fairly new to it, right? It's just starting the process for him, but he is so deep into I never thought she would do this. As you said, he loves hard. He's still madly in love with her, even though she's doing all these bad things to him. Which I think to mirror what you said, a lot of guys do that. You know, when we say till death do us part, generally we mean it. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but men mean it. And you know, he's going through that struggle, and it's one of the things I work with these guys. Just exact same thing of what you're talking about is getting them to accept reality, for lack of a better term, that look, yes, you love her. You know, you see this vision of her when you first met her, and maybe that's still there, but that's not who she is now. She may look the same, she may sound the same, you know, all of that, but she's not the same. And that doesn't mean she's your enemy now. Doesn't necessarily have to be that, but you need to understand she's not the woman you fell in love with. And I agree with you 100%. Guys really, really struggle with this, and it does lead to them doing awful things, like unaliving themselves, because they can never get out of it. And it is a lot of guys don't get out of it.
Yeah, yeah. So that false allegation coming from that person that you were familiar with, it would be different than if it was a stranger.
Oh, much
Because
different.
I think, because then people could go, I don't even know you. How dare you lie? How could you do something like that? Even if it was a coworker, it would be a little different. But when it's your wife, that's like, are you kidding me? You did that to me? It's hard for them to break that. It's hard for them to break that image that they have built within themselves about who this person is or was.
Right.
And again, it's the thing that helps the false allegation to linger. I've talked to men who don't realize that, like we talk about a TPO or a PFA or an RPO, whatever it is, whatever state you're in, and it says, do not contact that person. Do not contact that person during this period of time. And there are guys that think, oh, she just needs to hear from me. We can work this out. And I'm like, no, man.
It's the worst thing you can do.
Don't do it. No, she doesn't need to hear from you. The last person she needs to hear from is you right now. And a judge will make you pay for breaking that order. And it's the false allegation world is truly something special, man. And I'm glad that I've been through this, and I'm glad that I'm learning how the circus works, so that I can help as many men as possible. Again, avoid it when possible, but recover, because it's absolutely necessary to recover. And it's absolutely possible to recover. I want people to know that you can recover from this. It's going to take some hard work in most cases, but you can absolutely recover, and you can live a much better life as a result of going through a false allegation, as crazy as that sounds.
Well, I mean, it's never going to leave you. It's always going to be part of you, but it doesn't need to define you. That's how I've put it with people is, look, you know, and I've had guys on the podcast that I've interviewed. I talked to so many. I'm writing a book on false allegations, all this stuff. And I say to them all the time, I understand that when, you know, somebody Googles you, the first thing that's going to come up is you were arrested because you did what you just talked about. She got a TRO or a PPO, whatever terminology, and you decided you wanted to talk it out with her. Next thing you know, you're under arrest. That's public record. It shows up and all that.
That's right.
And then ultimately you prove that you didn't do anything wrong. Well, that arrest record's still there. That's never going to go away, but it doesn't have to define you. And that's what I try and teach guys myself, much like you, that only you can let it define you. You can't change what anybody else thinks or says about you. You can stand up, you can do all that. But in the end, if you can hold yourself high and say, no, I am not who they say I am, that's the difference between a guy who moves forward, such as yourself, and the difference between, and I hate to put it this way, a guy who, you know, eats a bullet. Because people do not understand how big this problem is. You know, we talk all the time about 100 guys a day kill themselves. And that includes all of them, veterans and all that. But 40 of those 100 literally every single day, at least 40, are directly related to divorce, family court, something along, And when you start thinking about that and put it in perspective, that's 12,000 guys a year?
Yep.
And you start doing the math, that goes on every year. This is a crisis, and that's why we need people like yourself out there talking about it. So let's switch a little bit and talk about like what you've been doing, because I help you in some things. We work together on some things, but I'm bowing to you because with this, you have done so much, and you work with Real, and we work together in some other groups. But can you kind of talk about some of the things that you've been doing, as far as advocacy, lobbying, whatever you want to go into?
Yeah, so both of those things, man, I have just really immersed myself in this world of false allegations. So I've come across people like Rob Garza out of Texas with the Taking Time Back bill. I've helped Lynn Crabtree out of the UK establish International Falsely Accused Day. And Joni, I can't remember Joni's last name, out of Connecticut, just had the governor of Connecticut do the first proclamation that I've seen for International Falsely Accused Day, which is September the 9th, 2025. What I really want to be able to do is help individuals who come to me, say, for example, through a workshop. Sometimes people will reach out to me on Facebook, they'll send me emails, TikTok, they find me in all these different kinds of ways. And I invite them into a very short conversation because I cannot talk to everybody all day long. And I tell them, hey, I got a workshop that I do. It's a free workshop that I do online. Come into the workshop. And I try to lay out what I see are some of the basics of false allegations, the importance of documentation, the importance of self-care, the importance of good legal representation, the importance of making sure that you don't overdo the lawyering. You can overdo lawyering. You can pay too much for a lawyer. It's so important to be as well informed as possible so that you're not just constantly paying lawyer bills.
Right.
So I try to get people to go from rebuilding themselves with information, with resources, to consider being part of a community where they can help with advocacy, where they can help us talk to legislators, where they can help us talk to law enforcement, where they can help us talk to domestic abuse projects, so that we can move from me to we, because we need as many people who can to be part of the change. I know a lot of people that just come into the false allegation situation. As we said earlier, it is tough to be falsely accused. And when people get through the system, some people just want out. Other people have come to me and said, hey, what can I do to help? I appreciate your help. I would like to be able to help other people the way that you help me. And so we have a way of getting people to go from me to we. And we means creating policies where we can, creating laws where we can, to help address this issue of false allegations, whether it be through divorce or whether it be through child custody. We want to build a strong community of advocates to fight false allegations.
Hey fans, I just wanted to take a quick break from the show to remind you just how much we here at Men Need to Be Heard truly appreciate and value your support. And we'd like to ask you to do us a little favor. It won't cost you a dime, and it'll only take a few seconds out of your day. Could you take a moment to give us that like, give us that thumbs up on the video, and even share it with your friends? Doing so will help us to spread the word and continue to raise awareness on the issues that men and boys face in today's modern world. And we'd love to hear what you have to say on today's topic. So don't forget to comment down below and let us know how we're doing. Your input and feedback means the world to us, and it helps us to continue bringing great guests and even more content each and every week. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. It's the best way to stay up to date with all of our latest discussions, interviews, and deep dives into the issues men and boys face. It also helps the channel to grow so that we can continue to raise even more awareness on the issues. So hit that subscribe button and become part of the Men Need to Be Heard community. All right, that's it for now. Back to the show. Well, I mean, it does come down to strength in numbers, right? It's, and I know you've done the same. I've long advocated that just get out and tell your story, right?
Yep.
Especially when it comes to politicians, right? It's the issue that we're up against as men, and the women who fight for us, because they're more vociferous about the battle than we are, to be honest with you, right? When a mom sees what her son goes through, or the second wife sees what he went through and all that, they become very active. But the struggle that I've dealt with politicians for 30 odd years now, and I know you have as well, is they just sometimes don't get it because they see it as black and white in the sense that, well, we have laws. It's against the law to lie.
Right.
Well, is it? Because what's written on paper and what's happening in the courts is two different things.
That's
And, I spoke to a politician this past spring here in North Carolina, and we were having this exact type of conversation. And what struck home with him is when I said to him, I want you to put yourself into the mindset of a judge. And he's got this woman in front of him, bawling her eyes out, saying she's scared, she's afraid for her life, all this stuff. Her attorney's doing his thing or her thing. And if you're sitting on the bench and you're a human being and you're hearing all this, and remember, you're only hearing one side, why would you ever not issue the TRO, PPO, whatever, right? They don't want to be that judge that doesn't issue it, and it's in fact happening, and the idiot goes and kills her, right? And it has happened. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And that's when that hit that politician right between the eyes. It was actually funny to watch. But that's what we're talking about, is getting out, sharing your story, talking to them about what you've gone through. And then, again, the more of us that do that, that's when we affect change. And by the way, I hate to break it to y'all, but the women's groups have been doing that for 50 years, and it's why they're at where they're at.
Absolutely, man. And I tell people, some people know my backstory, that my father killed my mother when I was 12 years old, and that I was a witness to domestic violence, and I wound up being the chief witness against my father at the age of 12. And I understand what I'd like to say is kind of both sides of this issue. I was an advocate who would go out and do lectures, and I think I would do them on behalf of women. I really understood what my mother had gone through and what other women have gone through. And I didn't understand what men were going through as much, Dan. It was not something that was clear to me because I had never seen it. And I wound up seeing it as a victim of it, as opposed to just a witness of it. And it was mind-blowing for me that, wait a minute, something like this can happen? And it wasn't like I was, I'm not a stupid guy, but sometimes you don't know until you see or until you are actually in the experience.
Right.
I'll never forget that police officer, that state police officer walking up to me and saying, she's serving you with a PFA. And to this moment, I can still remember going, what is that? Like, I knew what a restraining order was. If he had said a restraining order, I would have said, okay, I get that. But when he said a PFA, he said protection from abuse. And I'm like, what does that mean? So that the ignorance was pure ignorance. It was innocent ignorance.
Exactly, yeah.
But it was a reality that so many other people faced. In our county, 50 PFAs a week in the county where Rael and I live, 200 a month. We have more PFAs issued in this county than any other place in the state of Pennsylvania, any other county in the state of Pennsylvania, which is why we are advocating the way that we are. And a lot of the times men, like you were talking about stories, a lot of times men don't tell their stories because there's this thing that said that men don't do a lot of talking. Men don't seek help in a particular kind of way. I'm if that's true, I want to believe that that's beginning to change, and I think that part of the change has to do with your platform, the way that I do things. People are starting to see us come out and say, wait, enough. No, 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 no. You're not doing that. We're not doing that. And the more we tell these stories, the stronger we get, the stronger the movement gets. And I hope the more people understand that it happens to men as much, if not more. Some form of abuse happens to men as much, if not more, as it happens to women. And this is certainly not a competition,
Right.
but it needs to be acknowledged. And men need to be okay with saying, I'm hurt. She hurt me.
And that's the struggle we face, right? And I've often said for however many years now, this is not a man versus woman issue. It's not black versus white, or it's not racial. It has nothing to do with religion,
Right.
creed. This crosses every race, every religion, every financial level.
That's right.
You give me any, demographic you want to use, this
Right.
crosses all of them, right?
That's right.
It is a human issue. And
Right.
again, this is where we're struggling. And I agree with you, by the way. The pendulum is starting to swing. And I think
Uh-huh.
I'm so encouraged because I've been doing this a long time. We couldn't even have this conversation 20 years ago, right? It was like, oh, they're just a bunch of angry young men. They still say that, right? But now more and more people, and I'm talking, like you said, I'll call them naive, are going, no, maybe what they're saying, they should be heard, right?
Right.
And at least they're being more open-minded about it. But the struggle we're having is getting the guys to come forward and getting the women who support the guys more and more to come forward and talk
Right.
about this, because in the end we're actually helping women as much as we are men. And
Absolutely.
that's the difference, right? The ones that want to silence you or me or anyone don't want the men's issues talked about because they don't understand that it affects women every bit as much.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about true equality, whereas they're trying to, they come for me all the time. They come for you. We all know that. And it's shocking to me that it's taken this long for us to get to where we're at now, where there is more open-mindedness about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder about the way that men have been raised, say, going back 70, 80 years. Again, just to kind of be silent, the strong silent type, and to what extent we've contributed to our minds in this area, in this conversation of abuse. That, you can do certain things to a man, you can say certain things to a man, and if he's a real man, he can take it. And buying into that stereotype of how we are supposed to respond to the playful hit, to the shouting, to the demeaning language. We play into that, and before you know it, it becomes a cultural norm within families. Before you know it, it's the way that mom treats dad. And so I think over the years, we've just kind of given into this is, this is what a man does. A man is kind of like, take it on the chin, always taking it on the chin. And now we're coming to the realization that, hey, this actually hurts. It's hurting us. And it's hurting the women in our family as well. It's hurting our daughters. And so I'm glad, and I definitely believe that we are at a place where everybody is beginning to see the importance of true balance in the way that we treat one another. A real respectful balance in the way that we engage one another. Because men are suffering. It's funny. We look at the statistics now. We see how men and boys are suffering all around the world, and it's not a coincidence that it's a global crisis. It's a global crisis. That boys are struggling psychologically, emotionally. They're struggling in the classroom. They're struggling at work. It is the result of some cultural tendencies that we've got, and those things need to be shifted.
And it's directly affecting society, and we're seeing that across society in every way. I mean, not to get into
Yeah,
politics, but we're seeing it, right? And
yeah, we are.
and again, it's not a left versus right thing either. It's both
That's right.
sides, and that's the important takeaway that people need to understand. Is, like I said, this is a human issue. This is not any demographic or political belief or any of that. So, when you're lobbying and talking to these politicians, what are some of the things that you're proposing to them to get some of this addressed? Because that's a struggle in and of itself. First of all, getting them to understand there's a problem, but what are you proposing as solutions to them?
I want to go back to the thing that Robert Garza did, a very practical thing that, again, it's called the Time Taken, Time Back bill. I love the work that he did around that because it just speaks to the need for uh, addressing false allegations in a way that says if a false allegation was part of a custody battle and one parent lost out on time, that we're going to give that time back. When I'm talking to politicians and legislators, I'm talking about taking a new look at what they thought was true. And again, that relates to custody, it relates to divorce, it relates to things like false allegations. I'm asking them to say something about the fact that there are perjury laws on the books, and for them to say something about uh, people in the courts actually addressing perjury. Like when I was in court defending myself for the PFA hearing, the charges that were being aimed at me were defined as unfounded. And I always thought that was interesting that the judge said that my wife's claim was unfounded. And I thought to myself, well, if it was founded, wouldn't there be a penalty against me? So to find this nebulous space of unfounded where it's like, well, we don't see anything, everybody go home, as opposed to we see something, you're in trouble. But what if there's a lie? What are we going to do about that? I
Right.
think there needs to be a conversation about that. And that's one of the things that I'm bringing up to the county council where I am. I've asked to speak to what they call the judge president. I've spoken to the district attorney's office. I'm saying to people, we can't keep letting people attempt to get away with perjury and acting like it's not damaging in our courts. People need to look at this stuff seriously. It cannot continue like this because it just continues to do harm.
Well, I mean, our entire judicial system is based on truth and honor, right? And
Right.
if you're going to not punish blatant lies, and again, sometimes it's nebulous, he said, she said, the judge isn't
Right.
quite sure. We're not really
Right.
talking about that. We're talking about
No.
definitively proving she's lying.
Right.
And they just basically go, okay, well, that's no big deal. Have a nice day. Which is what they do the majority of the time. It's very rare a
Right.
woman is held accountable. And by the way, guys do
Right.
the same thing.
Right.
But it's mostly women.
Right.
If we don't have that, then do we really have a just legal system? And I've long argued, no, we don't. And my advocacy is that there actually needs to be laws put on the books specifically addressing this, because the issue is now, in my opinion, and I want to get yours on this, is it's so vague. It's perjury.
Yes.
It's filing a false report. One, those are misdemeanors. So at most, she's probably going to get a suspended sentence. But if she doesn't, she's probably going to get a fine of $50 or 500, or
Right.
maybe have to do some community service. Maybe. She ain't going to jail, right?
Right.
I advocate for there needs to be specific laws for these situations. So let's say you accuse a father of, sexually assaulting the children, which is a common one.
Right.
And it's proven that he didn't. There needs to be some serious consequences, because
Absolutely.
even though it's happening in a civil court, that's going to get referred to criminal court. He could be looking at 10,
Yes.
10, 20, 30 years in jail. That
Right.
needs to affect her too. When I propose this to politicians, their standard answer is, "Yeah, but we can't do that because," and then they have their litany of things. What are you finding? Do you agree that we should have specific laws, and what are you finding if you're trying to advocate for it?
No, I think we should have some very specific laws because it is the only thing that will prevent, or that's not the word I'm looking for, but it will
Discourage,
make
maybe?
discourage. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
We need to discourage people from attempting this types of stuff. But if there's no punishment, and there's no reason why I can't even try to lie. I'm coming in here thinking, well, I'm going to give a lie an attempt. Where do we have room in our court system to allow people to try to lie? And we're looking at them like, wait a minute, you're trying to lie. That's out of bounds. It's like that's not fair play, and we're supposed to be playing fair over here. And the stakes are high, man. When I think about that whole thing of a father being accused of sexual assault against a child, that's a big deal because everybody feels that. The children even feel that.
I was going to just say
tell
that.
me?
Yep.
Yeah. So you mean to tell me that it's okay for that stain to be smeared on the father as if it was just an attempt to, get leverage? No, it's more than an attempt to get leverage. It's a crime, and it should have an appropriate punishment next to it because you created a situation where a crime did not exist by creating a crime. So it just needs to be punished as the crime that it is.
And also, in doing so, they're taking away resources from being able to help the ones that actually need it, and solve
correct.
the actual crimes, quote, right?
That is correct.
And we've made this argument on many times. It's that, the courts are overwhelmed. The mental health professional side of the courts is overwhelmed. CPS is overwhelmed. And, I talked with a CPS worker a few months back, and she's like, I know 80 to 90% of the cases they're lying. And you put that in perspective, and she's handling 50 cases at any given week. And so, let's use 80%. That means 10 of them are actually issues, 40 aren't.
Right.
Imagine if she could take her entire week and put it towards those 10 and help those children, as opposed to 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and then they slip through. We always talk about kids slipping through the cracks. That's exactly why it happens.
That's
so,
right.
Our argument actually, again, goes back to it helps women, helps kids. It doesn't hurt them. It only hurts the ones that are lying in the long run.
That's correct. That's correct. And we need to hold people accountable for wasting public time, dollars, resources. We need to be able to, I say the system is constipated. We need to be able to clean the system out so that the proper cases can be heard. And those people who are bringing frivolous stuff into the court, intentionally bringing frivolous stuff into the courts, have to be discouraged. And if they're not discouraged, they have to be punished. There's no other way around that.
You've got to introduce accountability.
You got to.
If you don't, you're actually causing way more harm than, and that's what these arguments I have with these politicians over this, and getting them to understand that. And, depending on which side you're talking to of the aisle, I use with the Republicans, I use the money argument. We're talking billions and billions of taxpayer money put
Right.
towards these cases, right?
Right.
The other side of it, if you're talking to a Democrat, because there's a, it's a gray area. You're always on a spectrum with it. But if you're talking to them, it's like, imagine all these women and children that actually are victims that aren't getting served. That's
Right.
how it resonates with them. But it feels dirty, if I may, to have to do it that way. But many times it's the only way I can get through to them.
Yeah.
And that's, I saw that. I advocated in New York for 25 years. I'm seeing it in North Carolina. It's the same. Is it? I'm sure it's the same in Pennsylvania. Are you seeing the same thing?
I am saying the same thing, and I think your point is well taken, man. We have to speak the language of the people that we're talking to get them to move on what it is that we're talking about. So we need to know what we're talking about. So going back to some of the advocacy that I'm doing, once I get a person settled in their own situation and they're prepared to fight for the collective, I tell them you gotta be strong enough in your understanding of not your issue anymore, but the bigger issue, so that you're not going to see a politician talking about your issue. You're talking about the collective issue when you go talk to a politician. You got to know how to speak that language.
Right.
And sometimes people are not emotionally ready to speak that language because they have not come further, farther enough in their own development that they don't slide back into talking about what happened to them. Once you get past your situation, you want to start speaking for the needs of the whole, as opposed to speaking for your own needs. And again, it takes time, but it's absolutely necessary that we speak the language of the people that we're speaking to, and that we're ready to speak for everybody when we are beginning to speak.
And that's the important thing, is we need to speak, period, right?
We
It's
need to speak.
go
Yep.
meet with them. It doesn't have to be perfect. Guys will say to me, well, I don't know what to say. Just go tell your story. Tell
Right.
them how you feel. Let your passion out. You don't, you'll learn. Now, at first,
Right.
I remember the first few times I met with legislators, I thought they were, godlike and all this. They put their pants
Far
on the
from
same we do, right?
Right.
Most of
Yeah.
them are idiots, to be blunt. A
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
them are beyond it.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And there's also some very, very good ones. But you'll learn as you start doing this stuff what to say, how to say it, who to say to what, and what to say to
Right.
who, right? And it's, you can reach out to people like yourself or me, and we'll help you, but nothing teaches better than experience. Just go and
That's
do
right.
it. You're not, unless you become extremely angry or threaten violence or something like that, you're not going to hurt anything. Don't do
Right.
those other things, please. But generally speaking, they know when they meet with constituents, and more often than not, you're going to get an aide than the actual politician anyway. They know that you're nervous and you don't know what to say, and they understand that for the most part. I mean, there's exceptions, but
Right.
just get out and speak. All right, so I want to kind of shift because we're getting short on time, but I want to make sure, because this is so important. You've got something coming up that you want to share with the audience. So
Yeah,
take it
man,
away,
and
my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate your support of this series of documentaries that I've been doing that I call False Allegations 411. And so I've been putting out a series of very short documentaries based off of the false allegation that I was affected by and the eviction that came after. And so I've been doing an analysis of how it happened, why it happened, what the impacts were. And I'm coming up on the fourth anniversary. August the 4th, 2025 is the fourth anniversary of that viral eviction. And so I want to give people a sense of where I am now and the things that I've done to put myself in a much better position than what you see happening on that video. Because like I said, people still look at that video and are writing to me and saying, you need to get a lawyer. You need to do this, you need to do that. So I want to show people what I've learned in these 4 years. And Dan, this has been, in some, those long nights when you're looking up at the ceiling thinking, oh my God, when is this going to be over? Those are long nights, but then there are those days where I think, wow, that was a fast 4 years, a really fast 4 years. And I'm grateful that I've maintained some spiritual, mental, psychological, emotional, physical strength so that I can bring this next chapter forward. And I can show people that, again, you can be falsely accused. It could happen to you, but you can recover and you can speak up and you can tell a story that will change, if not, as you said, save some people's lives. I want to show through this documentary that I have become stronger, wiser, and that I am available to support them if they are challenged with with how I was challenged.
Yeah, just to be clear, the show will be coming out, or the film will be coming out the week that I'm releasing this podcast. So I will have links down below so that you can go watch it. Just kind of give the audience a little bit of flavor of really what goes on in it, because I think it's so important for them to watch it. But you know how it is; you gotta prime the pump, so to speak. So give me your, I'll put it this way: give me your trailer for it.
So as I start off with all of it, you see me being evicted from the house.
I should make you a
You see
trailer.
me- yeah, you see me being evicted from the house because that's part of the origin story of this new chapter in my life. And then what you see though are like some of the documents that I actually had to go through to begin to recover myself. I became an investigator, and I started sleuthing around and learning what actually happened to me, and also what I could do to fight back. People are going to see an arc in the story that goes from what appears to be, I don't like calling myself a victim. I say that I was a target.
Oh, I
I
like
was,
that. I got to steal that, my friend.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I like that.
I was a target, and I tell people I was the perfect target for this story. So you got a target, and then you see me kind of go down to a place of real pain and some real suffering. But then you see me rise in a kind of a heroic way and start to turn around and go, wait a minute, I'm going to file a lawsuit. Wait a minute, I'm going to file a private criminal complaint. Wait a minute, I'm going to begin to speak about this. I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to see what I can do to help people. So you see the false allegation turn into a an opportunity to Lynn Crabtree says this a lot of times. You see a phoenix rise. That's what happens here. You're going to see a phoenix rise out of the ashes of a false allegation, and hopefully inspire people so that they know that you don't have to be crushed by these things. They can make you an entirely new, more powerful, more loving person.
And, I mean, if I may, I'll put it in Hollywood terms. It's a story of redemption, right?
There we go.
You're
Yep.
giving hope to the hopeless. And
Yep.
if you've never been through a false allegation, if you really don't understand it, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But this is an opportunity that you have to take so that you do understand it, because, yeah, it may not be everyone, but like you mentioned earlier, you don't know anyone outside of yourself in your circle. I actually
Right.
have the opposite experience. I know more than a few, and that's
Wow.
okay, right? It's just the nature of the beast, right?
Right.
There are always people that are in your life, I think. They may not tell you, they may never
That's true.
talk about it,
Right.
but they're going through it. And I think one of the things that I've always taken away from having done this is it's given me the ability to spot it in people that they don't even know, right? I mean, when I talk with guys, they don't realize they've had a false allegation placed against them, even though they've been in the courtroom. And I'm like, dude, she made a false allegation against you.
Right.
Well, it happens. But also,
Right.
when you realize that that's happening and going on, and you know the signs to look for, that can help you to help someone, right? So,
Right.
if you see a man going through a divorce and, he goes, because often, you go through the whole stages of grief, the anger, the sadness, and all that. But if you see him go dead quiet at some point,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good sign something is going on. Might not be a
Yeah.
false allegation, but guess what? It's one of the first signs that you'll see. Guys, because guys they're ashamed, they're embarrassed, they don't want anybody to know. They'll go dead quiet. If they're going radio silent, that's a sign. Doesn't mean it's false allegation, but it's a
Right.
very good chance it is. And understanding that whole mindset by watching a film like the one you're making is a way to help you see how others are what they're dealing with and how you can help them. Because when guys are going through this, and to be fair, women do too, but it's majority guys. When guys are going through this, and we talked about it earlier, and they're alone, a lot of times they're not going to reach out. But if somebody reaches out to them, they'll open up, and you'll save their lives.
Yeah. And I want to say this about the power of storytelling as it relates to the false allegation. The false allegation is an attempt to create a narrative that discredits, disorients, destabilizes, and depresses the target. It's a story. The false allegation is a story. So part of my healing has been putting these films together because I get an opportunity to reframe the narrative. I get an opportunity to say, nah, that's not the story over there. The story that she tried to tell is not the story. Here's the story. Mm-hmm. And when people reclaim the story, they can reclaim their lives. And that's the thing that's kind of the under the subtext to what it is that I'm doing with these films. I'm not just making a film. I'm making, as you said, a story of redemption. I'm talking about revival. As I said, I'm talking about a phoenix. Mm-hmm. And I am doing it very intentionally. It's almost, it could be said to be a tool of propaganda, self-propaganda, that I am saying, no, this is what is real. This is what actually happened. The truth is right here. And I'm going to give you all the receipts that go along with this story, and you're going to see a phoenix rise.
Yeah, and I can't thank you enough for all the work you've done, but putting this out there, because I'll be able to then share it with the people that I work with and talk to, and politicians, right? I would encourage everyone, and again, I'll have the link down in the show notes. I will encourage everyone to share it with the politician. It takes you 2 seconds to look up who your federal congressman is or congresswoman, your 2 senators, your local reps. You need to send it to all of them. You can do one email, 10 minutes of work. You'll line them all up and send to say, hey, I want you to watch this film because I don't want this to happen to anyone. It's all it takes, right? And you start doing that. And if enough of us did it, if one person sends it to a senator, I'll be honest, they're probably not going to pay much attention to it. If 100 do, or 1,000 or 10,000, that's how change happens. And again, I go back to, that's what the women's groups do. They make a film, they will literally send 100,000 emails like that. So that's so important for you to, one, if you're listening to this podcast, go watch the film. And then share it. Spread the word. Get more and more people to watch it. Because is it going to be on like YouTube? How are you sharing this?
I'm going to share it on YouTube. I'm going to share clips on Instagram. I'll share clips on TikTok. But the main piece I'm going to put up on YouTube.
So understand that the social media giants aren't necessarily that great about spreading the news. So you can help by doing that, right? Share it, like it, comment on it, share your story on it. Because then people like me will read those stories and I might incorporate them in my films and then link to the thing. We all do this stuff. We can help you if you help us, I guess is my takeaway from it. So I can't encourage anyone and everyone to go and watch this film. It'll come out. We're recording this before it's come out, but it'll be out when you watch this, and I'll have the links, as I said, down below. My friend, any final thoughts before we shut things down?
Just again, man, just to say thank you so much for having me. 2 years in this together, and look forward to the years ahead, because this is just a lifelong fight for me at this point. And I'm looking forward to helping people battle these false allegations, recover, and move on with their lives in the most beautiful way possible.
And I can't thank you enough for being my brother and being in the foxhole with me. It's truly an honor for me. As I said, I've done this for 30 years. I've seen guys come in and come out. I know you're never leaving the fight. It's a fight we're going to win.
We are.
It may take a while. It's not
We
going to
are.
be
Yep.
easy, but we are going to win. And I appreciate the work that you've done. The people you're working with. We mentioned Rael earlier, and there's groups that we're both part of that we're all starting to come together and speak as one voice. And that's why we want people watching this podcast to do is join us. You may not want to host a podcast or make a film or anything like that, but we can use your help in many different ways, whatever that might be. And the more of you that do that, the sooner we can win the war. I hate that we have to use the analogy of a war, but that's what it is.
That's what it is.
You
I
know,
agree.
It's sad
That's
that
what
it
it
is,
is.
but that's what it is. All right. Thank you again for coming on the show. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. So, guys, girls, ladies, gents, and germs, I really hope that you listen to this show and understand how important this is, right? False allegations are rampant. They may not be as, just with, like we talked about, the silver bullet or false allegations of rape or sexual assault, but there's a gamut of them out there. But we're focused on these really, I'll call them bad ones. I hate to put it that way, but these are the ones that need to be addressed first because it is ruining lives. It ruins the life of the man accused. It ruins the life of the children. It ruins the life of the person making the accusation. They may not realize it, but it does. And the more we speak up, the more we share our stories, the more we start taking action, the sooner things are going to change. It really is that simple. All right, if you enjoyed the podcast, do me a favor, give me that thumbs up. Give me 2, as a matter of fact, all right? Don't forget to like and share it, and I'll see you next time on Men Need to Be Heard.